Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Fight Week Part 2. On the sort of subject of the lack of promotion for this fight, a lot of people have talked about this fight doesn't seem to have been pushed as much as the first one. One of the best bits of promo that I have seen with some of the best discussion on was a piece on Sunsport Boxing's YouTube channel. Go and check it out, Sunsport Boxing, which had Carl Froch, George Groves, Eubank Sr. and Harlem Eubank. This was probably one of the best discussions so far leading up to this fight. About 40 minutes long. There's a great discussion about Eubank saying about how this fight shouldn't go ahead. It's breaking the rules. I'm not kind of sure what rules he's talking about, essentially. But the discussion goes down that route. And Carl Froch and George Groves really sort of hold Eubank to task over this. In one point, George Groves even says to him, he thinks the sport is becoming too safe. And that's out of context. So I urge you to go back and watch the whole episode to sort of how George sort of the leading up and what surrounds that comment. But very, very good. Chris Eubank is really, really sort of tested on his claims and his sort of his concerns by two legit people. Harlem Eubank doesn't really argue with it, but I like the way Carl and George Groves, I've really grown to sort of really warmed to George Groves since he's been doing, he's got his own channel. He started off on Sky doing a bit of commentary on there. And I really like George Groves, really like what he's got to say. And Carl Froch, I always like Carl Froch. He's very direct in this. And he does really, like I said, he really does challenge Eubank on a lot of Eubank's concerns and claims, and so does George Groves. Eubank Senior is just brilliant in this sort of stuff. There's a portion where Eubank Senior in one portion says, "I'm the king. You're talking to the king." To which Carl Froch says, "Yeah, I can't deny that. I can't deny that." So Eubank Senior is calling himself the king, referring to himself as the king, the don. But then later on says, "I'm not egotistical. It's just not in me. I'm not made that way." It felt like a massive contradiction to me, but that's Senior all over, and that's part of the charm, that's part of the appeal, that's part of why we love Eubank Senior. But yeah, 40 minutes long. They have Sam Gilliand. I can't remember who it is. Both who are currently. So I think Sam's on the card, isn't he? I believe. But they're both been sparring Eubank and Junior and Conor Benn respectively. They have them on. But it's a show that I believe sort of gone under the radar a little bit. But it's really good. Sunsport Boxing, go check it out. Carl Froch, George Groves, Eubank Senior, and Harlem Eubank. We've also had Eddie Hearn on Talk Sport today, talking to Simon Jordan, which are always entertaining. I think the Jordan Hearn are some of the highest figures they've had on Talk Sport throughout Talk Sport sort of run in the boxing space. So always entertaining. But I think Jim White, who Jim White does really annoy me when he talks about boxing, because he's possibly, out of everyone on the media platforms covering boxing, he's probably the least informed about the sport, and I cringe every time I hear him speak. But he did put to Eddie Hearn. Now, remember when we talked about this last time, when you had Eubank Senior and Nigel Benn on TalkSport, and Nigel Benn said that Eubank Senior had got 250 grand for his appearance at the first fight. I covered that before. To which Eubank sort of he disregarded those claims, and he said no, but then kind of went on a somewhat little mystical monologue again, as he tends to do so. So Jim White put the question to Eddie Hearn: "Do you think he was paid?" And he said, I don't know. He said, "But I'll tell you a story." So Eddie Hearn went on to recount this story that went something like this. He said, when Eubank Senior and his dad Barry sort of came together when Eubank was living sort of almost homeless on the streets of Philadelphia, apparently. I think it was Philly. And he said that him and Barry went on this amazing journey that led to, and he credited Eubank Senior with a lot of matchroom success in that building period, down to Eubank Jr. and his dad Barry, and the journey they went on and the run that Senior went on as world champion. So credited Senior with a lot. And he said, I always used to say to my dad, I don't like him. Do you know what I mean? And he said, Barry always said to me, no, we're like brothers. I won't have anything said against Eubank, Senior, this is Chris. I won't have anything said. He's my guy. We're tight. He's basically like family. Anyway, cut to Barry Hearn reaching 60 years old. Eddie was putting together a birthday party of all Barry's sort of best friends, closest friends, as a surprise 60th. All the people that were important, all the people that mattered in Barry's life, he was getting to come along to this party. So he's phoned up Eubank Senior and said, Chris, I'm putting together this party for my dad. Your guy, are you going to come? To which Eubank's reply was, is there an appearance fee? And then he says, I couldn't believe he said it, but my answer was, no, there isn't. It's a birthday party, right? To which Eubank Senior went on to say, well, would you pay for my driver? To which Hearn said he did. I said, so I paid him £300 at the gate. So you had Eubank saying previously that no, my integrity, I'd never take money. Now, granted, this was Barry Hearn's birthday and not his son Fine, but this is Barry Hearn, who apparently was his guy. They were tight, they were like family, and he wanted an appearance fee. So, make it out what you will. Always good entertainment, Hearn and Jordan on TalkSport. Much maligned TalkSport, but there's some good entertainment wrapped in there. We had the public workouts. Did anyone see the guy, Mr. Scooby, who Adam Azim is fighting? The shoulders and the traps on that guy, those androgen receptors are being well used, shall we say. I'll say no more on that, but we had the public workouts. Nigel had a move about with Connor. That was the little workout. They don't show a lot of these workouts. Eubank came in, done a little bit, as they are public. I'm not the grand arrivals and the public workouts. When we talk about promo, I'd rather forego these, to be honest with you, because they're pretty much me. I'm happy with the last press conference and the weigh-in, the ceremonial weigh-in that we get to see. I'm happy with that, but as far as grand arrivals and open workouts, I suppose if you're in the area, it's fun to go to the open workout and see these guys in the flesh. But I'd rather that money go into some more decent video production, some more insight shows. Do you know what I mean? That's what I would prefer, because they're kind of meaningless, aren't they? Like I say, unless you're there and you've got time to go along and have a look at these guys in the flesh. Otherwise, nah. A lot of Conor Benn this week talking about how. And everyone around Conor Benn camps saying that how calm he is, how relaxed he is, different person. I do wonder if there's a sense of Conor Benn in the first fight coming back, getting to fight on British soil, getting a decent reception by British fans, even though a lot of British fans still call him a drug cheat. And even Eubank going out saying he used steroids when Clomid is a SERM, a selective estrogen receptor modulator, not an anabolic steroid, but and its performance enhancing benefits are pretty minimal, at best. Anyway, I digress. Done many videos on that. Whatever your views are on the PED thing, whatever. But I lost my train of thought now. But yeah, so you had, so yes, Conor Benn. Sorry, I forgot my word. So Conor Benn has come out, and everyone's saying he's so calm, he's relaxed, he's a different man. Nigel was saying as well, he's a different man. He's so calm. His whole attitude is different, even in the face to face. A lot of people said Eubank still got under Conor Benn's skin in the sit down. I'm not sure. You have to understand what Conor Benn is. He's an emotional guy. Just because he reacts to something that someone else has said doesn't necessarily mean it's under his skin. You know what I mean? Conor Benn will react. He'll react to an interviewer. Doesn't mean he's particularly under his skin. He's just an emotional, reactive kind of guy. He was quite calm in that. I think they both held their own well. I don't think neither had one or the other. In sort of reverse to that, the polar opposite to that, when Eubank, when Ben has kind of got Eubank in the one-on-ones, because you get a little laugh and a smile, and that's Eubank's response. But so I do hope I do wonder if Conor Benn has had so much redemption from the first fight, and the fact that he went the distance, and the fact that he compete with a bigger man, he doesn't have almost a subconscious level of I've done it, and it's dimmed the fire a little bit in him. I hope that's not the case. We also have the fact that Eubank Jr., Bomac, Harlem Eubank said in that piece on the Sun Sport Boxing that he took this one seriously. If you looked at him at the ground rivals, he looked not far off the weight already, which means he's had a proper camp taking the weight off probably, which will mean he's had a harder camp. Now, if he's took this more seriously, like we would believe he has, he's got Bomac. Bomac has put him through a camp properly. He's taken it seriously. He's worked harder. Now, it's not just fights that take it out of you. This is what a lot of people don't understand. The grueling camps can take as much out of you as grueling fights. When people talk about fight miles, I know he's had an easy career. He's had easier fights. That may be the case. But sometimes the camps are that hard. The camps will age you. The camps will put fight miles on you physically. The camps can rack up the usage. Do you know what I mean? So I would imagine that Eubank has had a tougher camp this time. So we've got the effects of the fight last time and the effects of this really tough camp that I had getting this weight off properly this time. Will that play a factor? And like I said, will the fact that Conor Benn is now this more, and he's maybe just trying to hold it down. Granted, he may just be holding it down, but if he isn't, and he is really a lot calmer, and a lot of the anger bitterness has gone, I do think, yes, fighting on anger is not good as we saw in the first fight. All the technical mistakes that he made. I was watching a piece by Bob from Canada's Boxing Channel and Julian McGowan, and Julian pointed out, if you've not listened to Julian, he's a trainer, fantastic fight analysis, but he commented how, and I completely missed this, but how that when Conor Benn moved out a lot of times, he moved out and he moved his front foot back first rather than pushing off his front foot and gliding his back foot back as he moved on the way out. A number of things this does. One of it brings the head up in the air. When you move especially when Conor Benn had a really wide stance, if you move that front foot in to go backwards, automatically raises it up. So there are lots of things that he did wrong because of the way that emotions got the best of him in that first fight. Yes, I know that. But I do think Conor Benn needs a certain amount of emotion to fight with. I think controlled, that coupled with a little bit of discipline and a little bit of science is what Conor Benn needs to be effective. Anyway, that's it. Fight Week Part 2. We'll be back tomorrow with prediction, and I'll see you all soon.